The Metro-North Railroad, operating for just over 40 years, serves New York City, upstate New York, Connecticut, and a joint service with New Jersey Transit in Rockland County. But we won't be talking about the west of Hudson today. This video will be all about east of Hudson and why it's a great example of perfect railroading system for New York and where it can improve in some areas. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and tell me what to do next. Anyways, onward with the video. Now normally I would give a history of the line that I am doing, but because Metro-North has an absurd amount of history, I'm not going to be doing that. What I will state is like the basic facts though. The Metro-North Railroad consists of three main lines: the New Haven Line, the Harlem Line, and the Hudson Line. The New Haven Line is made up of three branches, two of which are diesel only while one is electrified. We'll go in order of each line since they are all different in their own ways, starting off with the Hudson Line. The Hudson Line is split into two main sections, Manhattan to Croton Harmon and Croton Harmon to Poughkeepsie. Manhattan to Croton Harmon is comprised of upwards to 4 tracks, being 2 tracks or 3 tracks in certain areas. Throughout the entire Hudson Line, Metro-North shares the tracks with Amtrak, which doesn't run that frequent service, seeing upwards at most of an hourly service. The Hudson Line is known to be fast and reliable, with their express trains going from Croton Harmon to Grand Central in less than an hour, and their local trains still being able to go from Croton Harmon to Grand Central in less than an hour. But it's not just the trains that are fast, it's the way that the tracks are configured. During the morning rush, southbound trains heading towards Grand Central Terminal use 3 of the 4 tracks to ensure that trains can move quickly and efficiently going from Croton Harmon down to Riverdale, and then in the 2-track section using the westernmost track going southbound, which bypasses all the local stations. But that's mainly just for diesel trains, as regular electric commuter trains don't use that track. The local train service patterns are split into 3 main sections: trains that make every single stop from Croton Harmon down to Grand Central Terminal, trains that make every stop from Croton Harmon down to Greystone, then making stops at just Harlem and then Grand Central, or trains that make no stops from Croton Harmon down to Greystone, then make select stops at Yonkers, Riverdale, and then all stations down to Grand Central Terminal. The express trains make some stops at Tarrytown, then some stops at Greystone, then Yonkers, then Riverdale, then Marble Hill, and it's very complicated. But what I do like is the diesel trains. These run from Poughkeepsie all the way down, and they don't do something like the Wassaic branch. The Wassaic branch is different because the Wassaic branch trains go from Wassaic down to White Plains. Nope, I'm wrong. The Wassaic branch trains go from Wassaic down to Southeast, and then if you want to go down to Grand Central, you have to take a Metro-North train from Southeast to Grand Central, which is different. The trains from Poughkeepsie down to Grand Central Terminal make all stops Poughkeepsie through Croton Harmon, and then make select stops, either going all the way down to Tarrytown and then starting express service, or going express right from Croton Harmon. Although some trips do make stops at Yonkers, Marble Hill, and Harlem 125th Street. The one thing that I would change about this line is the deadheads. In the morning when trains go down to Grand Central, they're not needed to go back up because rush hour isn't that much needed going northbound back up to Croton Harmon. So what they do is they deadhead from Grand Central all the way to Croton Harmon Yard, which what I would change is to store them in Highbridge and wait for the morning rush to die down before going back up to Croton Harmon for the evening rush. Anyways, now that we got the Hudson Line settled, we're going to go on my short segment of the Harlem Line because it is one of my least experienced lines. The Harlem Line is also the weirdest one out of all of them. It goes from 4 tracks to 3 tracks to 2 tracks, and there's about 8 different terminals, 3 of which don't have a yard, but they still end and originate there. I'm not going to go into the logistics of the terminals. There's just a lot, starting from Mount Vernon West all the way up to Southeast. And I'm talking about just electrified trains. But this line is good for 2 of their most used terminals, being Crestwood and North White Plains. Crestwood is very good because these trains almost always make all stops from Grand Central to Crestwood, which, in comparison with the trains that go up to Southeast, they almost always make no stops from Harlem to White Plains and then make all stops up to Southeast. The trains to North White Plains either make every single stop from Grand Central to White Plains or make select stops, for instance, stopping at Harlem, Fordham, Mount Vernon West, Crestwood, Scarsdale, Hartsdale, White Plains, and then North White Plains. Or they run express from Harlem all the way up to Scarsdale, which Scarsdale is the station after Crestwood, which means that if you want to go from Crestwood to Scarsdale, good luck. There's I think an hourly service, even though trains pass there pretty frequently. Anyways, now we will move on to the New Haven line. The New Haven line is one of the most complicated lines for a different reason, with it not only having its own service patterns, but having its own assigned fleet, which runs incredibly stupid configurations, along with their trains sharing tracks with Amtrak and the Acela Express trains, which they often run late. But Amtrak has been reducing the amount of Acela trains that they have been running, so maybe that's a good thing for the New Haven line, but not for Amtrak riders. Anyways, we're going to have a little pop quiz to see if you guys agree with me on my point. How many cars are usually on the New Haven Express trips stopping at Grand Central, Stamford, South Norwalk, Bridgeport, and New Haven? I'll give you a few seconds. Alright, time's up. Your votes are in. Now time for the answer. The correct answer would be 5 cars. I know, it's stupid, and that train is almost always packed every single day. Now, we're going to have another pop quiz. Actually, no, I'm just going to tell you the answer. How many cars are usually on the train from Grand Central to Rye, stopping at every single station? Every single New Haven line station. The answer is usually more than 7. I was once the only person on this entire train, and I met a very friendly conductor that day, and we're still friends to this day. Anyways, what my point is the New Haven line configurations are dumb. The singles, while they do provide extra mobility, I feel like a 7-car train should be on all of the express trains. Now, if they're going on the New Canaan branch, that's different. The New Canaan branch usually runs a segment between Stamford and New Canaan in Connecticut. But some trips do run from New Canaan all the way down to Grand Central, and these usually run as 5-car trains because almost all the stations on the New Canaan branch are about 4 cars long. But 4 cars isn't that much, so what they do is they will have a single unit of M8s run on this train to make it 5 cars for extra passengers. Although I have seen 8-car trains on the New Canaan branch, it is usually very rare. One smart thing that I do love about the New Haven line, though, is the way that the trains are set up. Departing Grand Central, there will always be a train going to New Haven, and then 3 minutes after that, a train to Stamford. The train to New Haven will make no stops from Harlem all the way up to Stamford, although select trains may stop at Fordham along the way. The Stamford trains make every single stop, almost always. And the thing is, when those Stamford trains get to New Haven, the New Haven train afterwards that just made express stops will be right behind it. It's similar to what the Staten Island Railway does with their express trains. The service patterns on the New Haven line are amazing, but their short-term trips are odd, using Harrison as a terminal, using Rye as a terminal, hell, even using South Norwalk as a terminal. But one thing I would love to change is their through-running diesel trains. Right now, the only through-running diesel route out of the Danbury or the Waterbury branch is the Danbury branch. The Waterbury branch doesn't run any trains to Grand Central. Now, you might say it's a fleet thing, but I guarantee you, instead of sending one of those diesel trains back up the Hudson line, you could send that to Waterbury and then run it back down. But I think it's mainly because of the BL20GHs that we have. If we get the new SC42 DMs that Siemens has been building, then we most likely will see an increase of trains. Anyways, That's it from me, and if you want to see more videos like this, like, subscribe, and consider sharing my video with others to spread my information. Anyways, I'll see you all in the next video.